All right, if you're a developer, you know this feeling all too well. So much of our time gets eaten up by this tedious, repetitive work that just revolves around documents, right? Trying to get information out of them, trying to get it into some structured format, it can be a massive source of frustration. Well, today we're looking at a brand new approach that promises to turn all that frustration into a really fast, creative process.
Does this look familiar? You're just bogged down trying to automate how you process PDFs or invoices or forms, and it just feels like you're either fighting a tool that won't bend or you're sinking hours and hours into writing custom code from scratch. It's a super common pain point, and it's exactly the problem we're going to dive into today.
So that brings us to our first section, what we're calling the document dilemma. The real issue here is that most of the tools we have for automating these workflows, they just don't cut it. They promise simplicity, but what you often get is inaccuracy. They're a pain to set up, and frankly, they can only handle the most basic, straightforward tasks, which, let's be honest, is rarely what the real world throws at us. And we're not talking about some niche problems here. We're talking about core business functions. Things like trying to pull key metrics from a bunch of financial reports, or processing all that new employee paperwork, getting to individual line items off of invoices, structuring data from thousands of resumes, or even just trying to create one good summary from a whole pile of different documents. Every single one of these can be a major headache. This whole situation has historically forced developers into a really tough spot. And that brings us to Section 2, two flawed solutions. Basically, you've had to choose between two very different but equally flawed ways to get the job done. And honestly, neither one feels quite right. Each one comes with its own set of pretty big compromises. Yeah, this slide just lays out that first choice perfectly. On one side, you've got the low-code builders. They seem easy at first, but wow, they are incredibly inflexible. You're stuck inside their little predefined boxes, and the second your use case gets even a little bit unique, you're hacking together crazy workarounds. And the worst part? You're totally locked into their platform. Then, on the other side, you can write custom code. And yeah, you get total flexibility, but it costs you a ton of time and complexity. You're building orchestration logic from scratch, debugging these complex interactions, and then you have to handle all the deployment yourself. It's a classic trap. But what if there was another option? That brings us to Section 3, a new way to build. This is all about finding a path that avoids the rigid walls of those low-code tools, but without demanding the heavy lift of custom development right from square one. And this is where a pretty cool new idea comes into play. And that idea is the middle path. It's a simple concept, right? But it's super powerful. It's a solution that aims to give you the speed and the ease of a builder, but with all the power and flexibility of writing your own code. It's truly about getting the best of both worlds. And this is where the LlamaAgents Builder comes in. It is that middle path. So what is it? Well, you describe what you need to do with your documents using just plain English, and the tool uses these AI coding agents to translate your description into a complete, customizable, and production-ready workflow. It's designed to be both way easier to start with and way more powerful to extend later. Okay, so that leads us to the really cool part. How does it actually work? How do you go from just language to actual functional code? The magic here is really in that translation. It's about taking this high-level, human-friendly description of a task and turning it into robust code that can execute that task reliably every single time. I mean, just look at this. This is the kind of input we're talking about. Instead of clicking through 100 menus or writing all this complex routing logic yourself, you just say what you want. This one sentence describes a pretty sophisticated workflow that would normally be a huge pain to build, but here, it's just the starting point. The process itself is really just a simple four-step conversation. First, you describe your goal. Then, and this is super important, the builder actually talks back to you. It asks clarifying questions to make sure it understands all the little nuances of your task. After that, it gets to work generating the agent workflow. And you're not left guessing. It shows you a visual map of the entire process so you can see exactly how your documents are going to flow through the system. And here it is. This is the absolute game changer. This is not a black box. The builder doesn't just spit out some proprietary locked-down configuration file. No, it generates actual readable Python code using the open-source workflows framework. You can see everything it's doing right under the hood. All right, so that brings us to our fifth section, deploy and own it. Because, look, getting the code is awesome, but it's just the beginning. The next step is taking this workflow from an idea to a live, functioning application that you can actually use. And a huge part of the philosophy here is about what happens after the code is generated.
You get to own it completely. So check this out. The deployment process is designed to be ridiculously easy. You click deploy, and this whole chain of events just kicks off automatically. The builder pushes the code to your personal GitHub repo, it deploys it on Llama Cloud's managed infrastructure, it sets up the API endpoint so other services can call it, and it even spins up a simple web interface for you to upload documents and see the results. You literally go from a conversation to a deployed agent in just minutes.
And right here gets to the fundamental difference. This is the whole point. Unlike traditional no-code tools where you're basically just renting their platform forever, here, you own the code. This is the shift that puts all the power back in your hands as the developer. You are not locked in. And owning the code means you have real freedom. You can clone the repo and inspect every single line to understand exactly how it works. You can add your own custom logic, your own secret sauce that goes way beyond what you described in the chat. You can push your changes and redeploy easily. And maybe most importantly, if you have really strict data privacy or compliance needs, you can just take that code and deploy it entirely on your own infrastructure. You have total control. So this brings us to our final section, your turn to vibe code. The builder gives you this incredibly powerful starting point, but the end result is yours to control, yours to shape. It's a new, more intuitive way of building, and the team behind it is inviting everyone to try it out. So the question is, how do you get started? And here's the best part. It is available right now in beta, and it is completely free for all Llama Cloud users. There's no barrier to entry. You can sign up and start building your very first document agent today. Now, since it is a beta, it's good to have the right expectations. Right now, the builder is really optimized for workflows that are focused on extracting structured data. The user interface is intentionally minimal, that's on purpose, to help you validate your ideas as fast as possible, and the team is actively, and I mean actively, looking for feedback, especially on use cases that go beyond simple data extraction. Your input is going to directly shape what they build next. So you can see how this really shifts the paradigm, right? It moves away from tedious configuration and towards a creative conversation. It gives you an incredible starting point, but then it hands you the keys to the final product. So looking at this new way of building, what's the first document headache you'd want to solve? What will you build first?